Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flat Thunder channel. My name's Andy, and it is boating season, and we have customers who want to get their boat in the water now, right now. Along with all the other normal maintenance that we do to this boat for our customer, we're gonna go ahead and add in a Jegs branded Bandit fuel injection kit. This is a throttle body EFI kit. Hopefully we can get rid of that Quadrajet carburetor and also make effortless starting, because you got the normal. Hopefully it's going to be a I don't know what I'm doing. This is going to be my first experience with this kit, but it looks really nice and it looks promising. Stick with me, I show you what we're going to get into. Maybe we can get 550 horsepower. Nah. Mercruiser 350 Magnum with an Alpha 1 outdrive. This is the original engine for this boat, basically a small block 350. And it's got our Quadrajet on here. We want to get this thing off of here and get our throttle body fuel injection on there. First step is to start removing everything. This is our throttle linkage here. So we want to make sure our throttle's on this side. We get a choke over there. Fuel supply there. We're gonna just start tearing it apart. So we started disassembling the carburetor here. Here's our throttle linkage bracket. That might give us some issues because of the spacing. Not 100% sure yet. Now we're gonna rip off this fuel supply line. I got some pig mat. I've never used pig mat for gasoline. I don't know if it'll work. So we're going to stuff some shop towels under there and pig mat. That's about as good as that's going to get. Watch, nothing will come out now. Ha! Oh, there it goes. Now, if I didn't put that down there, it would be a freaking gusher. I lay a little bit on there. That also could be a problem because we don't have studs on this side. I'll figure it out. Choke linkage. Ta-da! Just like that, you can bolt on more power. So this intake manifold has what I believe is called a split or spread bore, where one side is wider than the other, but it does have multiple points in the carburetor here. So hopefully our new carb will or throttle body will slide onto these. We just need either 2 bolts and or 2 studs on this side, but we'll have to see what we're working with. There she is. Isn't that cute? Chevy puts the firing order right on the intake. A whole bunch of wires. Some instructions that we may or may not read. Gaskets. Packing material. Stuff. Here she is. Look at that. Black anodized. Oh man. That's gorgeous. Let's go up there and see if we can pop this thing on the intake manifold and or figure out what it's going to take to get it on there. The throttle linkage goes that way. This fuel line's got to go away. So I didn't buy the adapter plate to go from spread bore to square bore because I knew this intake manifold had both mounts and the carburetor is drilled for both mount styles, which is basically one way is wider something. But when you open the butterflies up, you can see the ports line up good on the front, but we have a mismatch in the back, just a small amount. I'm pretty sure we could still work like this, but it's going to disrupt the flow a little bit on the secondaries in the back. So we're going to see if we can get the adapter kit. I didn't buy it because it was an afterthought, and I would have bought it, but it was a $16 part that cost $30 to ship because I didn't buy it with the throttle body kit. We're going to leave that on there. We're going to go see if we can get a stud kit and maybe an adapter kit at the local parts store. Side note, looking at this, I think, look at all that fuel down in the intake there. I don't know if you can tell or not. See it? There's like a puddle of fuel. I'm betting that old Quadrajet junk was leaking back into the intake, which made it extra hard to start. So I just spent half the morning looking for a carburetor adapter kit at the local parts stores to go from a spread bore pattern to a standard 4 square pattern. And I was able to come up with one, but unfortunately it didn't eliminate that little edge. All it did was kind of cone-shaped tunnel the flow back this way, and it wasn't benefiting anything. Right now we had a big nice open hole. The fuel's going to go straight down in there. We just got a little bit of an edge here. The adapter kit raised it up an inch, and then it had like a cone shape down to go this way and didn't eliminate that edge, so we're not going to use that. Now what we need to do is just clean this up. This is after the loud cars go by. Was going to switch out the old gasket. This one isn't very old. You should always use a new gasket, but the new ones supplied with a kit, while they make a mounting pattern that'll fit our studs, it necks it down quite a bit. So we're just going to keep the original on there because it fits the intake manifold better, and we'll go with that. Let's see if we can get some bolts in this front edge. I got some short ones here to try. Bolts. We got the carburetor physically mounted to the intake manifold. Everything looks good there. We can open the throttle all the way. But one problem also that we encountered is the original Quadrajet carburetor has a bracket that wraps around the base of the carburetor, and that supports the throttle linkage here. So we need to come up with a new custom throttle linkage. Here, this is the throttle linkage. I have it full throttle up at the control station. So the mounting point needs to be back there somewhere. And it's this round boss here. It's basically like a shoulder bolt. It needs to be somewhere back in that vicinity. And I got these 2 tapped holes in the intake manifold. I can't tell if you can see or not. Got these 2 tapped holes, one there and one there. And I found these round bosses or spacers. Now they're too big to put in there, but I think we could bolt those there and then come up with something that would go off of those spacers that would support something back in that area there. The hole, this is obviously crusty because nothing's been in there for about since 1989, however long that is, 30 some years. So now we need to come off of this with something to support our throttle linkage way back here. In the ideal world, your weld bench would be completely free of stuff and ready to rock and roll. In my world, it's completely covered with everything, but we got the piece set up here and I think it's gonna work. Maybe, I don't know. We're gonna try it. We got the bar that we just formed up. We got our two spacers and we marked them roughly where we want to space it. I hope we're gonna maintain the spacing. What we're gonna do is we're gonna tack this guy here. We got it so we can kind of cant it a little bit, and this clamps it up. We can angle it. But we're going to get two small tacks on here and then take it up there and see what it looks like. There she is. Let's go test fit. Use a sacrificial flannel here to protect the carb and blow those holes out. Alright, so we just test fit it, and I don't know if your angle, we may have bent these pieces, tightening it down, but we were able to get it tightened up. I think maybe the plane on these is a little bit different than being straight. Yeah, it looks like they're kind of kicked at an angle. But we're going to go ahead and tack this multiple places and then give her a nice little weld. Call it good. We do need to adjust this. We need to... It's perfectly in line with the shaft. So we'll get this all welded up, test fit it again, and then we might have to jog this over about the diameter of the rod. We got one good one right there. The wind's blowing all my shielding gas away in here in the shop. We got both doors open, so got some porosity there. Ain't nothing a little paint won't cover up. Alright, well, we got the little jog in her there. I hope that's good. We're going to let it cool off here nice and cozy, and then we'll come back and try it on the boat. It's down there, comes up, does a little jog over. Here's our stud that we tapped and threaded in. Same on the factory. And we got her. That's in neutral. We got the butterfly, the main cracked just a little. And that's full tilt. Looks pretty good. This thing still moves free. No binding. It's got to be able to pivot and rotate. I think we're good to go. We may have to adjust this. I think there's adjustment on it, so we can close that a little bit, but it might do it electronically too. We'll have to see when we get into the electronic portion. So up next we got to flip this fuel line, but right now we're working on the riser. Riser is this big contraption here that comes off of the exhaust manifold, comes up, turns and goes back. We need to split this to get our O2 spacer plate in there. Shifter mechanism unbolted from the inside. We got our cable straps loose, and let's see, this thing's never been off. Comes off there easier than I thought. Looks like the hoses are just holding her down. These hoses were replaced previously. And that's what we needed to see. Here's our exhaust port. Let's see if we can get this off here. There's some sludge and a little bit of goo in there, but it's better than I thought it would look. 99, 2009, 2019, 35-year-old gasket. They don't make them like they used to, don't they? Look at that. We got these spacer plates from Hardened Marine. I don't know if you can read it. Hardened Marine, machined in, anodized. These have an O2 port in them. And I believe go on there, hopefully some way. Gasket number, if you want to look at that. So I need to clean this. I'm going to take this down in the shop and hit it with a wire wheel. Ah. Play the can we line all those pieces up game. Looks like the rest of them are all shifted weird. So you got 2 of them started. 3. I was gonna put Loctite on these. I don't think it gets hot enough to burn it off. It might, but if it does, it ain't gonna hurt anything. Diagonal tightening here. Just gonna AccuTorque it here. I can't find my handy dandy reference chart, and also all the information that I could find just doing the old Googler says it's a very low torque value, and it's at the very bottom of my torque wrench range, which usually don't get good results when you do that. Here's our O2 sensor. Of course we silver streaked it up with a whole lot more goo. I don't want to get it on the end, but I don't want to get stuck in that aluminum either. And we can't put it in there. So here's what we're dealing with. The port's right there, and this pipe plug is extending up in the way. So I'm gonna try to make the pipe plug go away. At least this 16th plus inch piece that sticks up above. Yeah. It's also got one on the other side. So flipping it wouldn't help. We gotta do something here. Come on, baby. She's going. She's going. Whew. I didn't think I was gonna make it. Alright, O2 sensor, check. We got the throttle body fuel injection installed. We got the spacer plate in our riser with our O2 sensor installed. Our modified custom throttle linkage is all installed. That's all good to go. Now we need to install our auxiliary fuel pump supply. This is a Phi-Tech or Fit-Tech, however you want to pronounce it, Force Fuel brand. Basically, this is just a reservoir. The low pressure fuel pump will feed into this unit. It will feed out high pressure fuel to our carburetor. So we need to mount this. The kit came with some AN aluminum fittings and 5 feet of high pressure hose. So we got to get this mounted somewhere within 5 feet of the throttle body. I don't know exactly what's optimal on this. It says you can mount it in any position. I think horizontal or vertical is the best, or suggested as the best. And this spot right here looks good to me. Having so much fun here in this engine compartment, we decided why not do some more stuff while we're in here. So we got a new water pump for this engine. Customers having some issues with overheating, and I don't know. I don't really think it's a water pump related issue, but it's 35 years old. Maybe it's not pumping as good as it should. Maybe the impeller is clogged up a little bit. I don't know. But we got a new one, so we got to rip off the old one, get the new one installed. Actually, it has really good accessibility. At least I think it does. Basically 4 bolts, but this hose here kind of elbows, so we're probably have to take it up here at the thermostat housing, and then of course the belts and the pulleys. But really, I think this hose hopefully is only going to be the hold up. If you're familiar with boats at all, the fuel tank is in the very bottom of the boat, typically accessible only from the inside of the cabin or through the floor somewhere. This just happens to be what they refer to as the aft cabin. If you get all the gobbledygook out of the way, there's these access covers that pop out. Main feed that goes to the fuel pump. And if you look close enough, there's a special fitting in there called an anti-siphon valve. And there's a lot of confusion about this, so I want to talk about this just a little bit. The main purpose of this is there's a check in there such that if this line is not positively creating a vacuum, i.e. the pump not pumping here, then this valve will stay closed. If there is a pressure like pulling fluid this way, i.e. the pump is pumping, the valve will open. And what the main purpose of this is to keep the bilge pump from filling with fuel in case the line were to break, because the fuel line actually dips down below potential level of the fuel tank, and if the line were to break, it could automatically siphon out of the tank. That's the reason for the anti-siphon valve. Over here we have the fuel fill. And then in this third port, we have the fuel tank vent. It's very important to have your fuel tank vented. We also have an auxiliary fuel line we need to install from the auxiliary fuel pump. So we got this guy here. This is a hose that's going to go right back to that auxiliary fuel pump source. And what we need to do is find a place to tie into the tank. So we're going to try to tie into this vent line. Good news, bad news, they didn't have the fittings we needed, but we came up with something I think we're going to be able to make work. This is 3/8 pipe nipples on a 3/8 T on each side. We need it to be 5/8 ID, and this just so happens to be about 670. So .3/8 pipe nipples, turned them down, cut them off, faced them, smoothed them out a little bit, and then we have just our 3/8 barb. So now we got 5/8 on each side with the 3/8 T. Need a fitting? Make a fitting. It's back out of the hole, pulled up over this access cover so we can cut it over here, because I can't really cut it down in the hole, and then we're going to shove it back in. At least that's the plan anyways, and well, there's no turning back now. I like to do it without cutting myself too. Be handy. We got on there with no room to spare. Now we just need to get a short section of hose on both ends, tighten the hose clamps, and then get our return line attached. So we got this big pile of wires. Here's our little computer for our EFI throttle body injection. We got to find a place to put all these wires, and I'm guessing some of these ends need connected to something. So let's get down in there and start poking around. Looks like they're labeled, so like that says tack in, so it needs a tack lead. Fan we don't have. Map. Throttle position sensor. Idle air control. CTS, whatever that means. Fuel pump. Alright, so we can put that right on our auxiliary fuel pump. That'll be nice. And a relay, and what's this? Ooh, a ground. That's important. Need that. Anyways, let's get this down there, start moving it around. If we're looking for homes for all these connections, we found this one here that says CTS. Doesn't have a home. Then we realized the kit came with its own coolant temperature sensor, and hopefully we can get this plug out right there and stick this in there. No, that's an air temperature. We need to find a coolant port somewhere on here that we can jam this thing in. It's always the small little details that really become cumbersome and difficult to manage. In this project we had to make a custom T for the fuel return line. We had to make a custom throttle linkage holder, and here we go, just to put the temperature sensor in, because there's not, being a boat is an interesting coolant jacket here. Just to get that sensor in there became kind of a problematic issue. This is what we came up with. We had to go with a galvanized steel because we have a sensor coming out that end of the T and a sensor coming in this end of the T. Our new one's coming in from the bottom. This is our factory original. Short nipple back into the housing. Now that barely would spin in there. We actually had to buzz the bottom corner of this and the corner of the T down there with the good old carbide burr. We just took a little bit of material off of here. This is kind of corroded anyways, and then the new fitting got a little material off of it. But it's in there. We got both temperature sensors. Let's get the hoses back on there and continue on this wiring journey. Finally, something happened. We have the throttle body fuel injection installed, and it's looking really cool in there. We just got to clean up all this mess. I'll take you down here and show you what I did. I can't really make wiring entertaining, so I'll just point out what we did. It just gets incredibly boring. We obviously have the Jegs throttle body fuel injection. We have a connection here. We got key on hot on the positive side of the ignition coil. Then we have the tack lead on the negative side of the ignition coil. Moving around, all these wires basically came with it. Need to put another tie wrap on that relay. Coming over here, you're scabbing hot power off on this resettable fuse, main fuse here. Big bundle of wires, O2 sensors connected here. Coming over. Here's our computer. We wanted to mount it up high and kind of on a flexible spot We left it kind of loose. It's tight, but not physically screwed to the wall because you get a lot of vibrations in here. Here's our fuel pressure module. Still need to put the gauge in. Got our vacuum line. We got a negative and a positive. Positive driven from the Jegs module. And then we got some grounds here. Ground on the front stud of the water pump right here. One for the high pressure fuel pump module and one for the main computer. All that said, everything's good, I think. Till we check. And I just walked through the engine calibration, if you could see that. Don't mind that. Initial setup, engine setup. That's what we went for. Now we're gonna give it a go. Conveniently, it's raining and the wind just kicked up, but we're gonna give this a go. See what happens. Fuel pump needs to get fuel to the fuel sending unit. So we got a major fuel leak here. This fuel filter housing, it's loose. This thing needs tightened up. I never loosened that. That came loose. Yeah, so we're gonna have to get a wrench on that. Yeah! Alright, I'm completely soaked. It's raining. We're gonna shut it down. Everything sounds good. Need to adjust the throttle linkage. Maybe do some IAC settings. We're gonna do that when it's not raining. I am super excited. Oh yeah! Yeah! Even idle and perfect. It's like downpour now. We're gonna call it quits. Super excited. This is awesome.